David and Paula Ben Gurion. And then I will talk about them over there, and then Don will share with us. Jerry will share with us. A few words. Sometimes you see, first of all, the youth. This is a youth trip, like here in Israel, because it's a small country. Sometimes they go for 1 night, 2 nights, or usually it's 2 nights or 3 nights a trip. But also you can see some soldiers walking with their guns. And this is what I spoke about. They are between 18 to 21. And these guys are young. I see that they have structure. So they are in some kind of a course. So they are just in a training period. But they do need to get education. So visiting the grave of Ben Gurion, it's like you'll go to the
Washington.
Or to the wall in DC. I mean, something. This is a historical site that every school will pass through. And then not only something boring, but they will have also a hike. So they will hike down, or the bus will take them down there to the trees. I will talk about it in a moment. There was a very nice hike over there, and with the ladders and also some actions for those. Okay, we are all good to go? I am on.
Now you're.
Can you hear me? So I think that it have a little delay when I push the button. A few seconds, like 1 or 2 seconds, and then it turning on. But you can hear me all.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So what I will do is I will do it like a
Panorama.
well, it will be more 180. Like about what we see, and then about this place, and then we will go under the trees over there, above the rocks, where there's shade, and Jerry will share with us from the biblical point of view of this place. And let's give honor to David Ben Gurion. So you can see the 2 graves of him and his wife. His wife's name was Paula. David Ben Gurion was from a Russian Polish origin. He fought in the First World War. He studied law. Where is Nick? So he was a lawyer also, and then he came back to Israel. He was thrown away by the Turks during the 20s and the 30s, and then he came back because the Turks, the Ottomans, they ruled over the country until the British came and took over after the First World War. So David Ben Gurion became, you can say, he paved his way to be a leader. He was very known also to be a farmer in the north, and then in other parts of the country, and he became, you can say, a politician, and climbed up and became the first prime minister of Israel. Because Israel started by, I always joke, say, by bureaucrats, but most of them were, you can say, from East European origin. And there are a lot of things to say about it, but because they had a dream about what this land will be, and they wanted to be a land of people with white skin and Ashkenazi. If you do you know, have you heard the word Ashkenazi? Sephardic. So Judaism is, you can say, divided into mainly 2 groups: Ashkenazi, which are Jews from, you can say, Europe or East Europe, and Sephardics from Iraq, Iran, Syria, Egypt, Libya, those countries where there are Jews that escaped from Spain after not revolution, but the expel from there in 1492. So until today, we have this thing of between Ashkenazi and Sephardics. Many times the Ashkenazi see themselves a little bit higher, and that was the problem also in the beginning of Israel. That the Ashkenazi Jews saw themselves as better than the Sephardic Jews. So a lot of times, Jews that escaped from Yemen by walk, they came all the way from Yemen, all the way to here, were neglected, and they were put in all kind of camps, and the Ashkenazi Jews were in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. David Ben-Gurion have a big part in that. So I can respect him as the first prime minister, but he was also, when you study his writings, not all of that was kosher. Okay, in that matter. But this is his grave. Why he is buried here and not in Jerusalem, where we have the official site for prime ministers and presidents? Because his vision was to make the desert green. Now, just we just passed with the bus a place called the kibbutz of Sde Boker. Sde Boker meaning the field of the cowboys, and the kibbutz started actually in the 50s, in the early 50s, by a group of Americans. One of them finished his service in the First World War, and he liked this area, and they thought like, wow, this area can be amazing for a cattle ranch. So he got some of his friends, and in the early 50s, and they purchased land here and thought, let's build here a cattle ranch and a cattle ranch. They started and they named it Boker. Boker in Hebrew is a cowboy, and they started, but it didn't succeed. So it had up and downs, until the kibbutz was founded with more people that were able to guard also themselves, because there were some murdering by local Bedouins, and then because of fights over land and over cattle, and finally the kibbutz was established. And later on, when David Ben-Gurion resigned from political life in the 60s, he moved to live in the kibbutz. And a lot of pictures and caricatures were made that he is working with, in those days, those funny shorts, and then he would just work as an ordinary person with the chickens, or with the whatever. So he wanted to be as one of all of them, equal to all of them, and with no like, I was prime minister, so I need to have something else. Of course, he had this guard and everything, but he was an ordinary person that was part of the group. Sometimes I will stop them if you have an opportunity to take pictures of soldiers in Israel. So you'll see many of them here and in Jerusalem and wherever we will go. Like I said, they're all in between 18 and 21, learning how to defend their home. In Israel, we are not sending soldiers away, but we are defending our borders. So it's a bit different, because American soldiers are all over the world. Israeli soldiers are only here. There are special units, like Team 6 and things like that are doing all kind of operations, but they go do something and come back. But we don't have soldiers out of Israel. A little bit about what we see. So the riverbed that you see down there, and you can see the curves that the river is doing, where you see the bush, that's where water, when there is a flash flood, that's where water are running. So this is the river Tzin. You know it as Zin, Z-I-N. So river Zin starts over there in the canyon, and then it will flow all the way down to the Great Valley, the rift. You remember on the map that there was a big rift? So I will show you a map. When we were doing the shade, I will show you the map again, and then you will see, I will point out where this river goes down. But just to be orientated, if I want to orientate you, which direction I need to show you first?
North.
When I'm asking questions that you heard before 2 years ago, don't answer. You're not part of this game. No one asked you here. So which direction if I want to orientate you? If I want to orientate you? East. And why is that? Always you want to know where the sun rises. If you know where the sun rises, you will know where is the north. If you are, again, if you know your bearings and you know your ways, if you know where the sun will rise, then you will know where is the north. And then that's how you can also make that with the stick. You can make it sun. You call it sun clock? Sundown.
Sundial.
Dial. Okay. And it's very important, especially when you do navigation. So to know those directions. So east is over there, which means west will be over there, north is over there, and the south is over there. So because of that major earthquake that happened, that created the Syrian African rift, what we got, and you remember the tectonic plates that were moving? So I'm standing now, well, they moved like that. And because of that, when everything was still soft, it created kind of like tearing, okay? And that's why the rivers are going, or the riverbeds are going southwest, northeast. Almost all over the Negev, that's the direction of the riverbeds and the mountain ridges that are in between. So River Tzin and the plateau, you can see that there is a flat area. That's the desert of Zin. So the Negev desert, that big triangle that was on the map, is divided into Zin and then later on Paran, and we will drive through it. So now we're in the Zin area, and later on we will drive through the Paran desert area. So plenty of water. If you walk through this canyon, you will get to a pool that is about this big, all the way to the building, and deep, with a lot of water. This is high level of groundwater that are accumulate during the rainy season, and because of the type of soil that have a lot of clay in it, so the water cannot go deeper, so they are kind of in pockets. But when it's overflowing, then it will go down through the river. And then in the winter, when we have flash floods, it will go all the way down to the Dead Sea. Why? Because it's the lowest place in this area. And also, I used to be also guiding jeep safaris, and we traveled here quite a lot. And if you go down with the road, and then there's another canyon over there, and over there is another spring, and it's wonderful because you are dusty and you are, you take off your glasses. That's the only clean area, and then you have a little hike, and then you come to a pond, and it's clear water. You don't drink them, but clean water. You can jump in, make your coffee, a little bit of tea, and continue. You can continue your trip. So somewhere along here, the Israelites were traveling. So when God said, "I will provide for you what you need," He's talking business. He did what he meant, and you can see there are different places where water are provided. And then also the Bedouins that we saw on the way. That's how they knew to travel along when they were crossing the desert. Because later on we will talk about a group of people called the Nabateans, that they were considered to be the masters of the desert, because they used to be merchandisers that brought myrrh and frankincense from Yemen all the way to the Mediterranean, and then from there with boats to Europe. To cross the desert, you need to know where there are water and where there is food. And if you don't know, you will not survive. So water is you can say the main thing in the desert. Without water, you will cease. Any questions? I mean, we can talk hours and hours, but we're in the sun. So let's go over above the soldiers. There is a piece of during the 40s when the British were ruling over the country. What we got was undergrounds. There were 3 undergrounds that were doing a lot of damage to the British. They were, because they didn't agree with the policy of the British. The British were trying to prevent from Jews to escape from Europe, especially during the 6 years of the Second World War. And even people that succeed to get on the boat, they send them back to Europe. So there was a lot of rivalry, not rivalry, but fights between the British and the local Jews. And what we got is some 3 undergrounds that were formed, and they gave problems to the British. The thing is that among the Jews, the leadership of the Jews, there was disagreement about those undergrounds. And maybe you heard the name Haganah. So that was the major one. And then there was another one called Lehi and Etzel. The last 2 were quite aggressive. Have you heard about Menachem Begin? Who was
Yes.
one of our prime ministers. And then there was another prime minister, Yitzhak Shamir. He was short with a mustache. And he made kind of a peace with George Bush, the father, in Spain in 92. So those two undergrounds, the small ones, were very aggressive, and Menachem Begin and Yitzhak Shamir were the leaders of those undergrounds. And then there was the Haganah. That was a little bit more, you can say, more mild and more, tolerant. And David Ben-Gurion, he shut them off because he didn't agree with their activities. He thought, hey, we can talk with the British, we can convince them, we can work with them and build our country. We don't need to fight them. And they were not in that idea. They thought, no, we need to fight and we need to kick them out.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They caused them so many problems with exploding bridges of the train, their trains, and doing so much sabotage that the British in May, 14th of May, they left, 1948. So I opened this map. I will fold it into here, just that you will see what I'm talking about. And it says here Sde Boker, where my finger is, and that's where we are. Okay, so the water that I was talking about, the riverbed, is flowing all the way down towards the Dead Sea, because this is the Syrian African rift, and because it's so low and these are high mountains, so water will go either to here or to the Mediterranean. So every area in the world have what we call watershed. So for example, when we will travel in Jerusalem, not far away from the hotel where you will stay, that's part of the watershed, that a drop of water will go either to the Mediterranean or down to the Dead Sea. So also here, because we are on the eastern side of the mountain area, so all the water will go down like that, and then some water will go over to there. But we are on a mountain ridge that is in the Negev. So we are now over here, and we will continue to Ramon crater, and then later on we will make our way down to Timna and then to Elat. So we still have some ground to cover. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic